Says this meeting is being live streamed. Let me just make sure. We are live. We are live. Give me 1 minute. We got one viewer in live stream. Let me just make sure. We got Tanya talking on it. We got 6 viewers. Okay, everything's cracking. If you can share it to your pages, that'd be great. All right. Good evening, everybody. My name's Tanya. We're Black Lives Matter Sacramento. We're doing our 12th episode of Negus is Tired podcast. We got some things to talk about today, but I'm gonna let everybody introduce themselves before we start. I'll start with Michael.
Hey y'all, I'm Mike.
What's up, y'all? Bishoy.
All right, perfect. And I don't know if you know this, Bishoy, but your anniversary with us is coming up on August 4th. I want to say you joined in 2020, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll be here for 3 years on August 4th.
Yeah.
That is hella soon.
Yeah.
Congratulations. So we're going to talk about a couple things today that have happened over the last couple weeks. Most of it local, some of it international. Some of it national. But we're going to start off with about a month ago. The Sacramento Police Department went to the Sacramento City Council and they asked the police department, I'm going to reiterate that, the police department, Kathy Lester, the chief, went to City of Sacramento and asked for $228 million so that they can hire more people so that they could have quicker response times to emergencies. There's a lot to unpack in that, but we'll start with the basics. When they proposed this and council was considering it, there was 3 council members that requested that $6 million of that money go toward homeless response, so that folks that are unhoused can have a specific type of response different than the one they're currently getting from law enforcement. Which $6 million out of 228 is not really jack. It's a very small amount to ask for. So council voted no on the $6 million to go to homeless response, and they voted yes on the $228 million to go toward SAC PD. I don't think they've ever told SAC PD no when it comes to asking for money. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. There's so many things to talk about or unpack in this. Just like, there's so many things to unpack, but I'm not gonna start it off. I'll let someone else start it off. Bishoy, I'm gonna go to you. Like, what do you think of when you hear about this $228 million that SAC PD now has?
I mean, I think the first place that my mind went to was kids. You know, I think that's quite a bit of money that could go to so many useful places. That can go to so many different kinds of other organizations, institutions, infrastructures that actually support people and actually support Black and brown people. And not saying schools do that. I'm not saying like other institutions or complexes do that. What I'm saying though is, you know, I mean, why not put $228 million in being proactive and preventative, right? Because even if we already know what the police do, and this isn't their response is usually in relation to murder. But I think outside of that, why not actually figure out how to put money and funding into what is leading to these crises, what is leading to the need of response, right? Why do we need response? And there's $228 million. I mean, that's a lot of money that can go to a lot of people to get mental health services, to I mean, just get a bunch of things, to get real education that is, not necessarily, community education. I think a bunch of different areas where people can actually benefit. So it just feels, goes to, it's a waste of money. All that to say is, it just feels like, man, more money wasted. Might as well burn
it.
it.
Right. How about you, Mike?
My first question is like, where is this money coming from? Not just like where, like I get it. This is coming from taxpayers, like completely. However, where are they just making up this need for this extravagant budget? It is very luxurious of them to have requested such an incredible amount, especially during this time and all this budget crisis. Like small businesses, great corporations, the country is at a deficit. Where is this money even coming from? And why is it so astronomical? And what about all these like military vehicles that they just invested into the department? What is in this? Like you said, they're not ever being told no for these astronomical requests for budget or need for this budget amount. However, there's the denial of the 6 million for the homeless. What fraction of that was denied? I'm very curious. I kind of want to do the math right now. Let's see. You said 200 and what? 28?
28.
What is that? Well, needless to say, that's where my mind goes with that. I just can't believe that what am I trying to say? I just can't believe that there's continued allotment of irrational distribution of funds when there are so many greater needs within the community. Needless to say, but while I'm crunching these numbers here.
No, that's real. My first thought is, okay, response time. You know how much time they have, and excuse my French, but they fucked off time in the community just harassing folks. Like I've seen so many, I've never seen them utilize their time wisely. I've never, even when something has happened and they are at the scene and it's taped off, they're standing around joking with each other. Like they're talking about response time while these officers are out not doing shit. So like, let's get that out the way first. Like if we're going to talk about response time, then you need to get on your officers that you currently have and train them on how to respond to crisis quicker, how to stop using all their time harassing folks that are not posing any type of danger to anybody else, like our unhoused population. I mean, on top of that, but then like y'all said, like they keep giving, while I've been doing this work, it seems like they come and ask the city for money at least once or twice a year for either their budget to hire more officers. They're always needing money to hire more officers. And they've got a large police department. They've got hella police. They drive around 2 cars at a time, 4 or 2 people in each car. And they're out in the streets not doing much of anything. And, you know, then they're also asking for military stuff. They're always asking for military stuff. Like if you go to Richards Boulevard, where their offices, where their, I guess that's the central division. That's where their central division is. And it's in a city building. So there's other offices there. But in that parking lot is all of their militarized vehicles. And the first time that we protested up there, because I had never been there before then, I went through the parking lot like, oh my God, they have so many military vehicles. And we only know about the new ones because they're new topics of conversation, but they have tons of old ones too, like just sitting there. So I just like Bishoy said, it's a waste of money. Like you might as well burn it. And 228 million could build a whole new structure of something helpful in the community that that minimizes what we're experiencing on the street, or eliminates, or becomes a resource.
And we know what this conversation ultimately leads to. Like these proposals, these allotments always lead to budget cuts in some other area. Right. And all of a sudden, before we know it, education takes another hit, or somewhere else takes another hit. Oh, we're losing this amount of funding here, and how do we lose that funding? Oh, we didn't know. We didn't project some of these losses. It's like, well, it just always lends itself to that.
It's incredible. So like after I crunched some numbers there, it's like less than 3% of the budget request of $6 million was denied. Less than 3%. But again, like you said, we'll see the cuts in other areas, and probably homeless services will take another hit as a result of that as well. I'm pretty sure of it. I also thought that it was interesting that there was mention for such a great need for this budget to cover overtime. And so I just want to know, like, what is the concern for the mental health of police officers that are serving the public, are supposed to be serving the public, if they're so damn tired to even police the people? Like, don't you make irrational decisions when you're exhausted? Isn't exhaustion something to consider when we're talking about allowing officers to work overtime and to be paid $228 million worth of overtime?
They work hella overtime.
Yeah.
If you go to transparentcalifornia.com, I think it's transparentcalifornia, either .com or .org, but you could look up all of the public employees in California's information. You could look up their salaries, how much of that is regular, their salary pay, and how much of it is benefits, and how much of it is overtime. You could see, like, they get so much overtime, and a lot of times it's just to like work the King's game. Yeah. Or like to just like stand there and like look at people crazy when they walk by. They're really not doing much of nothing. But I mean, yeah, I hear you, because if they do come across a situation where they're killing somebody that didn't deserve to be killed, and then they're traumatized afterwards, like Patrick Cox, who murdered Daryl Richards, and then a year later was caught drunk on the job on the date of the anniversary of Daryl Richards' death. He clearly wasn't getting the mental health help that he needed after that situation. Not like he should be prioritized in that situation, but if our officers are out on the job drinking and policing our communities, like, that's not a good thing. Hitting people on corners for standing at, stop signs and shit, like, that's not, because that happened recently too. Nangle, someone I used to see in the streets all the time, he hit someone, a pedestrian standing on the corner on the sidewalk. Like, yeah, so I hear what you're saying, Michael.
Yeah. I mean, obviously overtime is equated to many other things other than just any, like, a surplus of hours worked, and I understand that. But reality is, if we're talking about how many of these officers are actually rested when they're coming to work, if they're actually working overtime, realistically. And that's just baseline.
Right.
Where do we go with that? How can we expect them to act rationally or even police themselves, let alone other people? And then all of a sudden they're ticked off, triggered, and tipped over the edge. It's like, and we're battling that as civilians. It's incredible.
Right. This will kind of lead into the next. A week later, OPSA, which stands for Office of Public Safety and Accountability, was asked to do a 2-year audit on the policing of SACPD, or SACPD's policing in the community. OPSA is a department that was created, I want to say, in 1999. And it's supposed to be, it's a city office. It's supposed to serve as oversight for SACPD and SAC Fire. I only know about it being really available to the people in 2000, I want to say 15, when Francine Turner started running it. Maybe that was 16 when she started running that office. She was selected to manage that office. And so I got to know her because we utilized that office to file complaints every time that someone would come to us with an issue with law enforcement, just so that it would be documented, which a lot of people in the community don't know that it exists. So if you ever have an experience with the Sacramento Police Department, we urge you to go to the Office of Public Safety and Accountability to file a complaint. You could do it online, you could do it in person, and don't expect that it's going to resolve the issue. I filed several complaints because I've been followed, and other things have happened while I've been doing the work. And a lot of times you'll get a letter saying that they found no wrongdoing, but the issue does stop happening. So officers do get talked to, they do get moved around based on complaints that are filed. I've experienced this. Sergeant, oh my God, what's his name? I can't remember his name. I always say his name. It's German. Sings. Oh my God. Sing. Oh my God. I forget his name, but he used to follow me. He used to park in front of my house and just sit there for hours. He would follow us when we'd be being interviewed by like national media. They caught him on video following us. He just did a lot of really crazy stuff. And when I filed a complaint, he no longer worked in the community that I lived in at that point. And I found out later that he had gotten in trouble, but I got a letter back saying that they found no wrongdoing. So, it does serve a purpose, but just this all goes to say that OPSA is there now. Francine Torner is no longer part of it. The woman that runs it, I'm going to look up her name while I'm talking, but she is a Black woman. She's a former police chief of Henderson, Nevada. And she's now running it. Her and the OIG, which is the Office of Inspector General, they're the ones that gave the production of their findings in the audit that they did. And I'm not finding anybody's name right now. Let's see. Anyways, they gave a 2-year audit, and surprisingly, her name is Letitia Watson. But surprisingly, these are the things we know. Like, we always know these things. Like, there's been national research that's done that talks about broken glass laws, that talks about things that are happening in every city and every state throughout the country. And we all say, yeah, we've had this experience. I've seen this happen to so-and-so. And we see it all the time, but never has it been in writing for the city of Sacramento. So that was kind of refreshing to see. But they basically went through the 2 years of auditing. They found several cases that violated the civil rights of people. They focused on what districts were being targeted the most by law enforcement, and it was South Sacramento and North Sacramento, which we already knew, but they have it in writing now, documented. They said that the majority of people being pulled over were pulled over for broken glass laws, and those are laws that are like tinted windows, things that aren't really offenses that would get you pulled over unless you're just trying to find a reason to pull people over. So what they would do is they would pull people over for tinted windows. They wouldn't address the fact that the windows are tinted. And then they would say, hey, I need to search your vehicle. And in certain situations, like if somebody's on probation or parole and there's a clause in their probation or parole, then their vehicle can be searched without a warrant. Then there's, the fact that you don't know your rights, or you're intimidated and you want to comply with law enforcement because you're afraid of them and you don't want to die today, then you'll let them search your car. And out of that, they've arrested people for things like marijuana, things like that, or they've just violated their rights and let them go. And so they talked about that. They talked about how there's a racial component to it based on the districts that they're in and the reasons that they're pulling people over and who they're targeting. They talked about complaints that have been filed. They talked about complaints that have not been filed because the folks that were impacted were afraid of retaliation. And then they showed this video at the end, and I'm going to go ahead and share it with y'all. Just a heads up, it is a little bit traumatizing. It does involve a child and SAC PD terrorizing a child. So just wanted to give you a heads up with that. Let me go ahead and.
Police Department, probation search, open the door. Sacramento Police, probation search, open the door. That one was once it bends in the middle. Cover that one. Hi, can you unlock this, please? Can you open this screen door? It's the police department. Can you open this? Hey, Sacramento Police Department, come to the door. The door. Can you open this, man? Come to the door right now. Listen, we're gonna kick the door down, and we don't want to do that. Come to the door right now. Open the door. Open the door. You're not a baby if you're not listening. Open the door. Come outside. Come outside right now. Who is here? You're going. Who is here? No, you don't get to go and hide and turn off the lights. That's not how this works. Okay, but you're gonna be the king of handcuffs because you're not listening. Why are you running and hiding?
I'm scared. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
How old are you?
10.
Let me take this off. I don't need you to do this. Why are you running through the house and hiding and turning off lights? That's incredibly unsafe. Sit down. Not gonna talk about this. Hey, when the police are at the door, you do not get to run and hide and turn off the lights. That's unacceptable. So the officer's demeanor.
So Bashoy, I'm gonna let you go off first.
What if you could do SEO smarter
Hold on.
and faster?
It's playing the next video, my bad. I'm gonna let you go off first. What all of that?
I don't know. It's hard to like digest it every time you watch it. It's just uncomfortable. You know, I think it's saddening. It's a reminder that it's really no limits to any of this. You know, I mean, you're talking about a baby, 10 years old, and the way that they were treated, the way that they were violated, abused, assaulted, all in that moment of 2-minute window. Yeah, just is so, it's heartbreaking. It's not anything new. It's just heartbreaking, right? I mean, not that you should be treating an adult like that either, but I mean, treating a 10-year-old like they're, a full-grown adult in the way that you grab them, talk to them, and make comments. I mean, just essentially really trying to ingrain this notion of you have no rights into their mind at 10. When a police officer does this, you don't get to run away, or you don't get to do this in your own home for your own protection. You don't get to do it. And we know young people soak those things in, and it lives with them for years, right? And that moment will live with that young person forever, without a doubt, and through generations. And it's just, yeah, it hurts. It hurts to watch.
Michael.
It is the system, right? Just to kind of piggyback off of what Bashoy is saying, like, it is systemic from that point. And probably, of course, like before that, but that is going to be extremely memorable moment for that baby. I've had this conversation like endlessly, but first I got to call out how proud I am that that baby was able to articulate herself in such a way that was disarming, right? Because you can tell that they were increasingly getting aggressive. They tried to talk to her, coax her into opening the door. But or someone like to open the door. And then when I guess when she claimed to be the child that she was or is, then that's when they just, oh no, you're not a baby. You're a big kid. And why? Because she's tall, because what her face looked mature, what because she claimed to be a baby. Like, I'm a mother of 3 children. This video makes me sad, fearful, irate, um, proud, even just of the little girl. But a couple points that I want to mention is like even the deception that even takes place from the officer in engaging with that child, trying to kind of coax her into doing what they wanted her to do, leading her away from her home in order to kind of scold her and berate her for the actions that she took, rather than applauding her for her bravery and even taking the risk and answering the door. Because I know I teach my kids, I don't care who is at the door, you don't answer it. If I haven't called and said, if I'm not at home, or if I haven't said, go answer that door, you don't answer that door. You do not. That could have been anyone. How do we know that? And simply, how do we know this is not on Halloween and someone could have been dressed up as the police at the door? For a child, that is too much of a burden to put on them to try to make that decision. They do not have the ability to discern like what is good or isn't in that case. And who is he to override who is taking care of her by telling her you never do that? And then my last point, I really want to just piggyback off of again what Bashoy said, like ingraining not only all of just ingraining like this fear. You have no control over anything and always fear the police. And I thought that their efforts were supposed to be the opposite, right? Like that's what the intentions are. They're there to do what was it, a probation check or whatever. Was that supposed to also traumatize everyone else who was in the home? And especially that baby? I don't think so. Totally out of line. And I simply don't understand why that is not a violation of somebody's civil rights.
Yeah. There's also a grandmother that was bedridden. You could see her legs. She's in a wheelchair. That's trauma
Yeah.
for our elders. Like,
Right.
but like, how hard is it to comfort a child when a child is scared?
Right.
How hard is it to say, hey, you don't got to be afraid of me. I'm sorry that we scared you. Come on out. We're just doing this right now.
Mm-hmm.
Don't cry. Calm down. I mean, either way, like, we'll be like, okay, your whole approach from the gate was bad, because them pulling on that security door, that shook me. If there was
Mm-hmm.
somebody pulling at my security door, they better be careful, because I'm scared and I have stuff in my house that I might use. Like, you don't come do that on somebody's door and then expect them to respond in a way that's not in fear. But then on top of that, when you see it's a child, it's not enough just to say, okay, let me take the cuffs off now that I know how old you are. Like, you need to be telling this child, like, or showing this child that they go around all the time talking about they're trying to build bridges between the community and law enforcement. Like, they always say this, and they always say that it's hard to do because, you know, people that are fighting them make it hard. But it's like, you're giving us proof every time that we need to keep fighting you about these things, because you keep doing it. It's on video, and that's one video. We haven't seen everything that's out there with SAC PD. Like, this is one example that is probably, whenever somebody does something and they think that they're doing it right when they're obviously doing it wrong, then that means that they're doing it on a regular basis, and that
Mm-hmm.
it's being accepted by their peers. So they're out there doing these things to people regularly. And this is the
Right.
one time we caught them, and they thought it was okay to do it. They thought they wouldn't get in trouble. They thought this was how their job is supposed to look. And so, yeah, I just, but to bring it back to the audit itself, Kathy Lester came in afterwards and gave her I would say 2 cents, but she gave her like
Mm-hmm.
response, and she basically was reluctant to admit to the fact that they violated people's rights. She used the fact that handcuffing this 10-year-old did not violate any policy, therefore it's okay. And that's when Letitia with OPSA said, well, if you don't have a policy that's violated when this happens, then you need to make a policy, which was good. Letitia also said that this is a systemic issue in this police department. And I mean, we have a history to look back at to see that it is systemic. And for the first time, the mayor, he actually said something that made sense. Like, he actually pointed out to Kathy Lester that it is systemic, that there have been other investigations held by different entities throughout the system that have found wrongdoing by SAC PD. And so, you know, she still was reluctant to see that, though. But I mean, I guess it just goes to the gaslighting that SAC PD does. Like, that's the difference between the SAC sheriff and SAC PD. Is like, SAC sheriff will admit that they're like, yeah, I'm doing this, and what? SAC PD is like, oh, I didn't slap you just now. Oh, I didn't punch you. I didn't kill you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's how they'll gaslight you. Yeah. It's disgusting. And this is a week after we gave them $228 million to hire more police.
Right. And we have previously discussed, like, why wouldn't the audit take place prior to a budget request? Or at least let's review the audit before we approve a budget, right? We know that the audit is taking place. Like that, man, it's a slap in the face. Most definitely.
I suggest that folks go to the City of Sacramento website, click on the City Council and Mayor link, and go to the meetings and watch this meeting and watch the response from Letitia, watch the response from the OIG, watch the public comments if you get a chance, because it was really informative. It was, even though it's not surprising, it's refreshing to see statistics about Sacramento and the things that we see them do that we don't have the numbers for. And we now have a percentage out of a portion of numbers that we actually have data on. But I would recommend watching it, because I can't give it justice how they presented. And our new OPSA director, she's not a punk. She does believe in reform, which I don't agree with, but she was very strong in her language and her words of her disdain for what she saw in the audit. And she explained that she has children, she has a daughter, she has a son, and how the little girl in the video is very fearful of the police now and is very traumatized. I mean, we worked with a 13-year-old who was pulled over by police twice, pulled a gun on the first time for walking to McDonald's in the morning to get breakfast with his friend and his brother. And the second time he was put in the back of a car and drove around and talked shit to. And this is both by SAC PD. And he's afraid to go outside and play. Like, as soon as he gets the nerve to go outside and play again, another incident happens. Mm-hmm. And he's not a bad kid. Not like that should matter. But he's a good kid. He does the right thing all the time. He makes right decisions. So he shouldn't be having these experiences. No kid should be having any of these types of experiences with people that are they say that they're supposed to be protecting us.
Our children are too often targeted. It's not only that us as adults are, that we're targeted. Okay, granted, I'll take that. But I can't say that there isn't a child that's been in my presence that haven't had some type of negative encounter with the police, and definitely are Black. And my nephews are one of many of those children that I've experienced personally.
Yeah, every guy I know, they say their first experience that they have with law enforcement was between the ages of 11 to 13.
Yeah.
And some of those encounters had guns drawn. So,
I mean, it goes back to, I think also, I mean, they don't see our kids as kids.
Right.
That's just the reality. Like, as soon as our babies have teeth, they're adults.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they adultify babies so quickly and age compress. I mean, just the world does, and society does, and white society does, and white supremacy does. But I mean, the police are one of the biggest I think, just complexes that do that to young people is no, that 10-year-old obviously doesn't look like a 10-year-old. Somehow does not look like a baby.
Well,
But
even then, even claiming that she was 10, because that's how he responded, as if it was a claim, like, oh, it doesn't matter. You're 10, you should be able to make a better decision than that. Why?
yeah. And
Why?
that often, I mean, that, and we know this especially hits our our young Black girls.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Crazy. Like, oh yeah, she's a mammy because she's 10. She's ready to go out into this world and make decisions.
Or a
10 years
sapphire.
on this planet.
Or a sapphire. I mean, there's one girl in community who's regularly, not as much now because her family's gotten real vocal about it, but been picked up, driven around, and she's returned home in different clothing. So this isn't normal. Like this, it is normal for SAC PD to do, but it's not normal. It should not be happening to our youth. I don't care who they are or what they're doing. Just like when SAC PD put the spit bag over Isaiah's head because he was panhandling. He's a child. His parents were homeless. He was homeless. He was trying to get money. He doesn't know another way. Show him compassion. Show him another way. That is not a criminal. That's not criminal behavior. So, yeah. That leads us into, I kind of briefly told you guys about OPSA and the leadership of it. And one of the suggestions that Letitia gave is she said that SAC PD is always talking about wanting to having more diversity in their police department. And these are her words, having more diversity in the police department. And we're not going to get more diversity if you keep doing this to our Black youth. And so that implies that she believes that diversity will fix the police department, which a lot of people think that will help. But I feel like we've seen over and over again that there's even police departments in other states that like they're all Black. Like they're Black departments and they're still harassing and abusing people because of the structure, because of the system, and because of the history and the foundation of this branch of the system, policing. And so we wanted to kind of lead a little bit into abolition today, just to talk about it briefly, because we are an abolitionist organization and a lot of people, they look at that word and they fear it. They look at it like it's not attainable. And I think if you've learned and been conditioned to depend on the system, then that's how you're going to see it. Because how does a system get rid of itself? But that's not how it works. One thing that I've always shared with folks is that we should be building structures to replace what currently exists. And I always use the analogy of Pacific Bell, and I might be aging myself, but once upon a time we had landline phones. And in Sacramento, we had a phone company called Pacific Bell, and it was the main company. It dominated, it monopolized, landline phone service. And eventually AT&T bought it and other things happened, but it does not exist anymore because cell phones came out. And cell phones took over so much that people really don't use landlines anymore. And if they do, it's for business or it's because they're old and they've had it forever. But you don't see, I tried to get a landline once and I could not find a company to provide a landline phone in the area that I was in. So it really is hard to find landlines. And so my point is that if you find something and you create something that you can utilize, and it might not be perfect at first, trial and error, but you polish it up and you make it work and you use it and you only use that. And you don't rely on this other system anymore for whatever it is that you want to do, whether it's securing your community, whatever it is that you want to do, you utilize the system and then do this in one neighborhood and it works out good. And then the next neighborhood will take over this new systemic feature that we've created. And eventually the whole city won't be using this system anymore. And that's just one example, and then it will go away like Pacific Bell. But that's just one example. And I know I'm making it sound easier than it is because you have to have organization. You have to have community that's willing to to be down to put in these systems, but I mean, it's possible and it's safer. It's not built on slavery. It's not built on racism. It's built, you can build it with the people in mind. You could build it to be restorative. You could build it so that it's not taking someone that's harmed someone because possibly they've been harmed and that's all they know, and then harming them some more, and then putting them back out in the world to do more harm, because that's not transformative and that's not restorative. But that's just my take on it. I'd like to find out from, I guess, you first, Michael, like when you think of abolition, what aspect of it is like the hardest for you, and what have you thought of to kind of like counter the hard part about it? Like, what is your counter been to kind of restore you back to believing in abolition? Because I know there's certain things where we're like, I don't know if I could follow through with abolition when it comes to X, Y, and Z. But then you think of ways to restore, or think of ways of how abolition could work in those situations.
Oh man, I feel like one of the biggest questions that I have is to combat is like domestic violence situations, right? And then I think of like what always drives me and what motivates me is community. And that is what always restores my thought and understanding. Like, we can build with a community. I can combat this idea of like, because I am a victim of domestic violence, that I'm not always subjected to the need for the police in order to call to save me out of these circumstances, or to provide support in that regard. And oddly enough, like, I've seen a lot of those situations turn disastrous and actually not be beneficial or helpful at all in any way, right? Like, I have found it to be a lot more helpful to maybe call family members or close friends to come and serve as support, more so than the police, because then they will turn on you immediately and you could be the one that is the victim. Like, I've seen it time and time again. I've experienced it personally. So yes, what I feel like restores me back to the belief is the faith that I have in the community and the community that we can build, because I've seen some of it be built very strong, and then I can oftentimes kind of actually anticipate some of the weaknesses within our community because we've lived it so much. I hope that answers your question, but definitely community, the thought of community restores my belief in abolition work.
To add on to what you said too, there's something about, and we've said this to law enforcement before, like if you live in the communities that you serve, then you're building a relationship with them, and
Yeah.
you're going to move in a different way than if you don't know them and you have not built relationships with them. And when you call on your own community to have your back, there's that piece, like they're part of the same community, that they're holding someone accountable that they know.
Yes.
And so they're holding them, it might be raw and it might be like unapologetically aggressive, but they're still holding them a certain way based on the fact that we are in community together and you're going to be accountable, and then
Yeah.
we're going to get through this. And at some point, then there's some type of restorative piece where someone heals,
Right.
you get to the root of the problem. What about you, Bashoya? The same question I asked Mike, I'm asking you.
I think just like the general unknown, right? I think sometimes, right? Like you said it earlier, like how do you undo something while you're still in it, right? And I think it's so hard because all of us have, been raised and been, taught in these institutions that we cling so tightly to, whether we want to admit it or not, and whether it's one institution or another, right? Whether we're like, fuck the police, but I'm also like, well, I have iPhones and I do this, right? Like, that's not to like have any type of guilt, about it. But I think it's the fear of not knowing what comes next is scary. I think just as humans, it's so terrifying. And I think what brings me back is often like kids, is that kids have so much unknown that hits them throughout their entire life. And they are just curious, right? And that curiosity lends itself to creativity and to building, right? And I think that like that's so hard. I don't know. I feel like as you get older, it sometimes you cling to tradition, you cling to the things you know. Not saying that everybody does that, but at least for me, speaking for myself, as I've gotten older, I've clung to the things that I know because they're comfortable or they're dependable, right? They work over and over, and just like letting go of that and figuring out how do I lend this fear of unknown and really transition it to curiosity and to creativity. And so, yeah, it's always interesting. And I think it's a great way of just like looking at kids and seeing how they do that is so like, it's just dope. It's just dope how they can do that so effortlessly.
That's like,
They're untainted.
yeah, they're not,
Yeah.
they're, like you said, when you said that kids, they're faced with new things, like so many years of their life,
Mhm.
and they're expected to face them and learn them and get challenged by them and then get through it and learn how to handle them and make mistakes. And so I think that's a good way to like adapt abolition, is to like understand that we don't know because it has not been done. We're going to learn as we go, and we're going to fix what we learn and make mistakes from. But yeah, that's we have to lean into that though. Like I feel like as like when you go into the Black community, and when I say that, I'm very generally speaking, like you go to like a Black function or you go to a park where Black folks hang out, you see abolition being done. Like you see folks stopping fights from happening, or like separating people from each other, or arguing and talking it out and then hugging each other later. Like there's been times where I've been in the park all day and I'll see like 3 different things happen where the community de-escalated a situation. So we're already practicing it because we don't trust calling the police. And I think that we need to look at when we do that. Like we need to look at when we do that and pat ourselves on the back, and then keep that energy when we move forward, and just continue to not lean on the police and hold each other differently than how the system is holding us.
I just want to call out how you said, like, we need to recognize that more. We need to recognize that when that's happening more often. More often, we need to pat ourselves on the back for that, because we get too caught up in this whole black on black crime and all these hyper escalated situations that does result in gun violence. But we forget to consider like what led up to that point, and if the police had anything to do with it in the first place.
Right. That's real. That's a whole nother conversation too.
Tell me about it. I know. I love it. The curiosity, the creativity, the community. Those are the things that restore the belief in this abolitionist work and ideal, because we know that this current system is not working.
No,
That we do know.
it doesn't work at all.
Mm-mm.
And we have so many examples to learn from. You know how they learn from your mistake, learn from other people's mistakes. Like we have so many mistakes to look at.
Yeah.
To say, okay, let's not do it like this, and this is what they did to get there, so let's not do that. There's
exactly.
yeah, there's so many examples. The last topic that we have is affirmative action. A couple weeks ago,
I can't.
a couple weeks ago, the Supreme Court, they basically got rid of it. And we all have our thoughts and ideas on it. And I know a lot of people were angry about it. But there's kind of a twist in how we're looking at things, because a lot of times things are performative, like they're put in place just to perform or give the idea that something is actually happening that shouldn't, that should be happening. Like there's equity in this, but a lot of times that is a no, that is not happening. When stuff gets created, and I'm saying stuff because there's all kinds of different legislation, policies, there's all kinds of different things that have been created over the years, even in recent years, that have given the facade of equity, have been put in place to give us this comfort that, now we can lean on this and we have these opportunities based on this new thing that's happening. But in reality, we'll still look at statistics and we'll see that those things are not happening. And we'll also see that there is no oversight to any of these things. So these papers get put into, these written up policies and laws on paper, they get put into place, but we don't have any proof that it's actually being enacted. We don't have anything documentation saying that it's actually being enacted. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I know that somebody reached out to me, I think in the media, they had asked if I knew anybody that's impacted by this affirmative action decision. And I was like, I don't think so. As far as like their kids going to college or whatever. And I asked Mike and I was like, are you? And you're like, nope. But I think we should elaborate on it a little bit because I think it's important for people to see the truth and look at things deeper than just what they're feeding us. Whoever wants to talk about this first can.
I think I'll go first because I'm still conflicted, right? The affirmative action has not been working, and it has not been benefiting Black folks for a very long time. I get the intention behind it, but there is no check. There is no check-in. There is no audit. There is no follow-up. There is no iteration. There has been no change to this current act in all of the years that it has been in effect. Do I feel that there will be a long-term impact? Yes. However, we're just now experiencing what it could have been impacting in the first place. So it hasn't been tested long enough. It hasn't undergone any necessary audit to make improvements. So I just feel like it's one of those systems that they wanted to fail so that they could do away with it. I kind of compared it to kind of like that whole Obamacare and Cover California, like, oh, it's broken, it doesn't work, let's not try to make it work, we're not even going to try to fix it. We're just going to try to do away with it instead of offering up any alternatives or anything that actually will work. I will leave with this thought. I shared it with a coworker of mine who did mention that the audacity of Clarence Thomas to vote against it when he stood the chance to benefit from it in the first place. So I just that's where I'm at with that. It's hard with politics. So that's why I rolled my eyes in the very beginning.
It's like, here we have this bucket of poison chili, but we're going to make sure that everybody gets an equal serving of this poison chili. So that's what I look at too, is the education piece. Like, what are the system of education, and then making sure that affirmative action is the assurance that every ethnic group will have access to this education system that is a pot of poison chili. That's the only analogy I can think of. I'm a little bit shy. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think to preface is like, what the part that feels so upsetting is, for me at least, is who's making the decision and the intent of what you just know the folks that are just shitty people are so happy with the decision they made. And that's the most upsetting part. Those Supreme Court justices, the right-wing folks, all these folks who are so anti anything that's considered liberal or left-leaning policies, and they're just sitting back so enjoying it and soaking it in, is the frustrating part. It's like, damn, fuck y'all. That's the irritating part. I think the actual policy of affirmative action to me, yeah, I mean, it like you were saying, Mike, it's like the effects of it was so minuscule. I mean, for just being honest, especially with Black and brown folks, it was hard. There's hardly a change. There was hardly a change through affirmative action. I mean, we have more white kids at HBCUs statistically than we have Black kids at Ivy League schools. Like, I mean, just like really thinking about those pieces of what did it really do? I mean, poison chili is a great, kind of like example of it. It's just like, it really what it wanted to do, and it didn't, was send kids who have had cheap schooling instead of real education to another institution that's going to wipe their bank accounts dry, that's going to leave generations just affected by how much it costs, and will ill prepare them for another institution that doesn't really have effective forms of education. Right. And I want to like also name that I've profited from, college. Like, I mean, I'm naming that as well. I've profited from, experiencing that. And so I recognize I'm coming at from a sense of privilege as well. And so like to name that, I just want to name that. But I think it's such a difficult piece to sit with, this notion of college and the accessibility to college, when we're not preparing people to go to college, especially Black and brown folks who have cheap schooling for 12 years before applying for that. And it's like you're not preparing people to go into this realm of college that does not care about them even more than their K through 12 education, that is ready to stomp on them, ready to kick them out. Now you took out a personal loan of hella money, if you could take out a loan, and you have all this debt. Now student loans are coming again. I think it's just absurd. It's absurd to have thought that at any point was this going to help. And it's absurd to think that the outcomes of this are disastrous, because the whole thing has been disastrous. Ripping a Band-Aid off a dead body, who's it hurting? It was already dead. You know what I mean? Like that's just how I see it. Like, who's it hurting?
You just made me lose my train of thought when you said that.
Right. Oh God.
I think it's important as a person who's benefited from it, as well as, because I remember one time going to Sac City where Melina Abdullah was giving a talk, and she's the founder of BLM LA, and she's a professor at, I want to say UCLA, one of those LA schools. She's a professor, but she teaches how white supremacy is built into the education system. And I think it's important for folks that are impacted, or folks that are in those situations, where they can make sure that the kids that are coming into these universities have the knowledge that they actually need when they're leaving. I think it's important for folks to bring that up. So I think that even though your perspective is, as someone that has benefited from this, I think it's important because you kind of, it's like infiltration, like you get to see firsthand, like some of the shit. So yeah.
Well, I guess they figure that you should be prepared for the fight because you had to fight all your life, right?
All my
Sadly.
life.
Yeah, all my life I had to fight. They just like, what else? You can handle this. Here we go. The resiliency of Black folks, and not in a good way, not in the way that we are proudfully like saying that we're resilient, but in the harmful, like objectifying way. Oh, you feel no pain, you can suffer through this. And policies like affirmative action have allowed for so many to continue to suffer through and achieve that level of greatness compared to white folks, I guess, to say the least. And that's not undermining Black and brown folks who have achieved that. That is actually sadly empowering them and encouraging like others to continue forth and down that same pathway, or even suggesting that perhaps that is the only way to achieve that level of success.
Also,
and
like,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
No, just, did you guys see the article about those two people that were in prison, that Harvard has this program where they're giving folks education that are incarcerated? And to me, that's affirmative action. Like, to me, if you're trying to reach the people that are the most impacted, to make sure that folks that have absolutely no access to higher education have access to it, then you're going to be in the prisons. You're going to be in the juvenile halls. You're going to you're not going to say, oh, well, if you have a 3.4, and you finished all these classes, now you can, because that's still access to education that everybody doesn't have. There's people that are in continuation school that are going to barely graduate, if they are, because they filled out dittos because they're not expected to do anything better than that. But yeah, there was 2 men. Harvard has this program. I want to say it's Harvard. It has this program now where it's educating folks that are incarcerated, and they had their first 2 graduates recently, and they showed the man, they were crying, and they're still incarcerated, but they have their degrees from Harvard.
Man, it's so conflicting though.
I know it's a lot because
Yeah.
there's arguments to that too, because Harvard,
Yeah. It's
but
just like,
and I'm going to say white institutions can find better ways to do what they say that they're trying to do.
absolutely. They're
And
smart enough, right?
I think that's the bottom line. Like, we know the education system is fucked up, and we know that it has a long way to go, and it needs to be abolished just like everything else. It needs to start over. But if these schools are trying to repair the damage that's been done, then there's a lot of other ways to do it besides affirmative action.
And please correct me. Affirmative action does not only, but it does significantly impact schools, correct? It is not exclusive to schools, is it?
I think it's schools and job and work, and I don't know.
But to what capacity? That I'm not very clear on.
What do you mean that? Like what, the level of education?
Yeah.
So like college,
Like,
universities, or elementary?
well, so yeah, like I understand that it's primarily for for college and universities, but how does it impact workplace environments?
I think that's equal opportunity,
Okay. Okay. I see.
but I'm not really sure. That's just off the top of my head. I'm not for sure with that answer, but I think they're 2 separate things, but they kind of do the same thing, but one's in the workplace and one's in the education.
Right. Okay.
I was gonna say something too, and I just forgot. And that's a whole nother conversation too. But yeah, it doesn't really help when you still have expectations of students to meet all this criteria that's kind of impossible to meet when you're living in poverty or, you know, formerly incarcerated. Or so even in its best vision, you know, even if you have this about affirmative action, it really is never intended to do what it says that it's supposed to be doing. It's another gaslighting. Okay, Michael, tell them about our birthday party.
Yay, it's coming up. 9 years, Black Lives Matter Sacramento has been thriving. And I say that like in the most celebratory way, but also acknowledging the fact that this work could not have been done without the loss of, unfortunately, so many lives here in the Sacramento, greater Sacramento area. But 9 years, we are celebrating on August 12th, correct? Yes, Saturday, August 12th. And the theme is Hot August Nights. I want to kind of throw it back to you, Tanya. Can you share the flyer on the screen?
I don't have the flyer yet.
Okay. No, not the flyer, but the banner
said
that
the
you
event.
used. Yeah, the event. But yeah, Hot August Night theme. So bring out your best rides. I know nothing about these fancy smancy cars, but there will be a contest, fun activities. So bring your family out. As Tanya's getting the announcement or the event, we just hope to see everybody there. Like, we're gonna have dance contest. I don't know.
Are we gonna have a dance contest?
I'm kidding.
You've been daydreaming. We're gonna have a twerk contest.
Twerk. I'm gonna twerk off. But yeah, 9th anniversary. It's a car show and party, and we hope to see all of y'all there. Oh, sorry, and it's gonna be at the Oak Park Brewery
on Broadway. Yeah,
yep,
we're blocking off the street. We're gonna have a car show. We're gonna have a raffle. We've got several prizes over the next couple days. I'll be sharing on the event the different prizes that we have. There's a lot of stuff going on in the background right now to make this event super fun. We have a DJ, DJ Badways. He hosts all the Memorial Day events at McClatchy Park. He's lit. He's gonna be there playing music for us. There'll be a dance floor. There'll be food. There's going to be a large raffle, but then there's also going to be the car show. And the winner of the car show is going to win $300 gift certificate to West Coast Audio so they could do more stuff to their car. And they'll also get a trophy. If you have a car that you fixed up really nice and you want to enter it in the car show, please call us up 916-581-0061. This is the event. I'm going to stop sharing it now. This is the event, but it is, if you want to go on Facebook and put going on the event, invite your friends, share it with people, that'd be beautiful. But it's going to be outside. It's going to be like an outside party. So even if people haven't seen this event, they're going to see it when they go down Broadway on Saturday night and they're going to join us. We'll have hot wings, we'll have French fries, we'll have beer, we'll have wine. And I really want to say that we're going to have a sideshow when it's over, but I can't say that.
Yes. We want y'all to come party with us, have fun, learn more about our organization, come to see and pique an interest and, playing a great part in not just Sacramento community, but just Black community space, reclaim and joy. We want to have like a lot of Black joy there.
Everybody's welcome, though.
Everyone is welcome, but enjoying Black joy.
Yes. Everybody is welcome to come enjoy Black joy because it is different than other joys. It is, though. I'm not playing. I'm serious. Black joy is different. Yeah. It's harder to attain, so it feels better when you get it.
Come pop out, right?
Right.
We outside.
Something sexy. We're all gonna look sexy. We're all gonna clean up nice. I promise. And Michael she might start, a twerk contest.
I might start a twerk contest. I can't promise though. I cannot promise that.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else that y'all want to talk about before we head out? Okay.
Oh, come to the garden, please.
Oh, yes.
It's hot. It's been hot and we need more hands out there, please. Whoever is watching this video at any given time, come to the garden on Saturdays.
That's how we really want to say it, please.
Yes. And if you don't know anything about our garden, just check out the Facebook page, check out the website. It's there. You'll see the pictures. You'll see the Black joy that exists in that space. Please come and help us. We could use all the volunteer help that we can get.
We grow food to give back to the Black community.
We grow food.
So come through and take part in growing food to help people out that need food.
Yep. And learning a little bit about how to grow and cultivate your own space as well. Like I know as Black folks, we trying to steer away from like sharecropping because that's what it was for us. But we need to get our hands back into the dirt and start feeding ourselves and replenishing ourselves.
It's abolition. It's abolition.
It is
growing our
abolition.
Food. If Michael and me live on the same street and she's growing lettuce and I'm growing tomatoes, we could put our food together and make a salad. And we don't have to go to the store and give them $5 for a head of lettuce, a head of iceberg lettuce at that. Vegetables are expensive.
And vegetables, fruit are expensive. And we got fruit trees.
Modified, yeah. You gotta help with organic stuff that's not genetically modified.
Right.
So
shout out to Nicole, by the way. Big shout
out to Nicole.
Nicole be at the garden every week.
Right. Every week and on Sundays.
Yeah.
Okay.
Watering on Sunday.
Yeah. And lavishing in it, helping other people to really enjoy the space as it should be enjoyed. So definitely big shout out to her.
I said the word water and it reminded me we have a fundraiser.
Yes.
So that we could get water through Martin Luther King into our area. It's going to cost a lot of money. So we need help. We need the community to help out with that. So please donate. We need to raise $15,000 and we've raised 500 and some odd dollars. It's been like about a week and a half now. So please donate. Please help out, even if it's $5, even if it's a coffee one day, just don't get the coffee, just throw us $5, because all of that helps us to get closer to our goal so that we could go ahead and get this water installed. Because right now at the garden, what we're doing is lugging water from our homes to the garden. We have a guy named Jesse that bought this big old 100-gallon thing that he fills up and he brings it to the garden. And it's really hard work. It's not easy for him to do it. And we need that water because the stuff that we have growing in the ground, it dries out like really easy when this weather is like the way it is. So the water, we take things for granted. We need the water. We need access to water. It's very minimal. The request is very minimal. Please help us out with that.
Right. Right now it's manually being done. I think I have to double down on that. Like, it's a lot of manual labor that is required in order to water the vegetables and actually even get the water to our location.
And we're not using hoses. It ain't like, oh, we're just
No hoses.
hosing down.
Yeah.
We are filling up water cans and walking back and forth to the vegetables to water.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
literally.
And we're getting vegetables and we're getting fruit. So we're doing it, but it is hard work. It is hard work.
Yeah, every day, every single day. So yes,
Mhm.
please help us out. On that note, we gonna head out. How long?
Getting dark over here, y'all.
I know, huh? I'm about to go outside our extended garden is in my backyard. I'm about to go give it more water. I don't know how long we've been on here. It's not telling me. So I know it's been an hour at least. So we're going to head out. We hope y'all have a good rest of the evening. We will see you next month on our next podcast. My dog is barking. She's ready to come out. All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye, y'all.